you had some in the morning anyways. Generally, I'm like,
no. Yeah. What's up, y'all?
Now that I can see better, who's first time?
Y'all are lying.
Mom, I see you here. By judging now that it's not the end, there are a couple hours left, but here we are on day 3. Who had a good enough time to come be a part of the family? It's exciting. We here in Houston, you know, my parents are some Jensen's parents, and we have buddies that came to visit who, you know, my buddies that I grew up with playing, this thing sucks.
Come over here, you already broke yours.
I just broke it. And they were like, that's the crazy, like I didn't know, man. You know, I have friends that are dear friends of mine stood up at my wedding and like don't know the name of my character. Not because, they're just like, yeah, you're still kicking ass, you're very cool. And then they came, they're like, so people like your show, huh? Yes, but it's more than that because as we've seen over the last 10 years, it's become, I can't tell, maybe some of you are in this exact scenario, but I can't tell you how many people I've met and continue to see at conventions who are like, I met my best friend at, you know, Houston or Dallas Con 08 or at Burbank Con 09, and we've been best friends ever since. I met him at Audition Con 04. Supernatural Network
Supernatural Con, testing network, studio con.
January 05. Was it January 05? 10 years since we met. And on our 10th meeting anniversary, I'd like to sing you a song.
Okay.
I'm singing it in my head, it's not.
You missed a note.
Thinking it actually. Well, that's cool. I'm glad that you guys have a great time. You guys, y'all. Oh my God. Except for those 3 people. I'm behind you.
I say y'all and George.
No, I love you. I'm saying everybody had a great time except for the 3 people behind you. No, you can look behind you.
Yeah,
they won't bite. No, look behind you. Look behind you. I'm terrified, sweetheart. I ain't gonna hurt you. Soulless might hurt you. Yeah. Well, cool. Before we carry on, is that y'all? Oh, I was just teasing y'all. Are you a 3?
No. No.
I love you back. Oh, I love you too. I thought it was Cliff. That was kind of... Yeah. In the future. Before we just jibber jabber, any thoughts or opinions? I see an arm, unless you're just airing out, which I do. Right at about 4:30, I start airing out. I'll get to you in just a second. Apparently she's either airing her armpit out or... How are you?
I'm good, how are you?
Awesome.
Awesome.
Time called for it.
So earlier during your panel, a bunch of people rushed the stage and there was like a mad scramble. I actually got elbowed in the stomach. And my question for you is that how do you cope with sort of like Beatlemania?
Well, I say to her, I'm like, whoa, elbow her in the stomach.
We promote violence.
I mean, young girls, that kind of thing. Like, how do you sort of wrap your head around that and adjust to that kind of thing?
Well, because it's generally me that they're after, he actually has experience.
So what is it you speak of? Usually as I see everybody running away, I'm like, but guys, wait, guys, over here. It's really neat. I think the way I cope with it is I am a fan of what you guys have done. You know, we're here for the show. We're here for what the show stands for, and the people we've met that have become a part of our lives while the show's been being made. All of our lives have changed. I mean, some people have watched 200. You wouldn't really feel it, would you, Jensen? I think I share the same vigor and fervor for that which you do. You do. Like, I love the show, I love the characters, I love what it stands for, I love what it's meant to my life. So, it's, we're in fact, I'm the one who elbowed you. I don't know if you saw it, but I'm sure you know what I'm saying.
Feel free to join the Department of Non-Verbal Conflict Resolution.
Those are the great t-shirts.
We hand out t-shirts.
I saw you in the back, raise your hand. Way far back. Yes.
Me, right? Okay.
Yes.
Well, like I said earlier, this is my first convention, and I've already met so many people who are total strangers that we're now really good friends.
Awesome.
And it's just been so many amazing memories so far. I was wondering if there was anything specific y'all remember from y'all's first convention that stood out.
Yeah.
Whether it be like embarrassing or like sweet.
Yeah, my first convention was a huge convention, like for everything. And I remember meeting the guy who played Django Fett, like in the episode of the Phantom Menace. And I remember him telling me, because I still do have a pretty intricate autograph, just because that's where I write. But I remember him going, I can't remember his name right now, but I remember going like, dude, too intricate. Just go like this. He's like, he was teaching me lessons on how to autograph quicklier.
I'm going to defer to Jared's mother on that one.
Yeah.
No? Al? Yeah.
Al. Yeah, I know. I can sense it. Quickly. I think from my first convention, I figured that the show, people didn't get really know Supernatural. I did it in like March of 06 maybe, or February of 06. So some people knew, but they were there for, Lost was huge, you know, like Evangeline Lilly and Summer Holder was there, and a lot of the Lost people were there, so it was more of a, hey, kill them.
We were there for you, Jared.
I was there for you. Thank you. But I enjoyed it. So.
There were two things to the first one that was anybody there at the Supernat? It was kind of a multi-show Rogue in Coventry, I think it was. Anybody?
I was there in spirit.
Was that it was a silent? Yeah, you were there. Yeah. So that was my first one, and the two things that stand out to me about that one. One was there was multiple shows represented. I think Smallville. I think Angel, Buffy,
Supernatural.
Was Supernatural, but this was literally after our first season, and all of these other shows had been on for a long time and had a well-established audience. And I remember that I think I got like the loudest yell because of the show that had only been on for a year. It got the biggest response from the audience, and I was like, whoa. And I remember telling him, I'm like, there might actually be some of these conventions. I think these people actually like us. No matter
we can get picked up for a second.
Yeah, we might actually get a second season out of this. And then the second thing was that I was physically attacked by a young girl. I wasn't hurt. She just
Spider-Man.
She just had an episode and literally came out of the crowd. And legs wrapped around, arms around the head, and was just going in for a kiss. Luckily, I have my buddy there, who some of y'all know, Jason Mans, who's a little larger than I am, and he just stuck a forearm in her chest.
It's instinct.
Put her, but she didn't like go to, she like slid slowly back. Because she was double wrapped. Leave that alone. Just leave it alone, buddy. So anyway, that's kind of, I don't know, what was the question? Yes.
Sure.
Okay.
So he just gave a question where he said that Sam's come a long way in the past couple of years, and perhaps questioning how much he'll let other people buy, say Sam and me. And you're going to be questioning more as the season goes on, trying to say, do you feel like, I can't tell what you mean, whether you mean, are you going to...
What is he talking about?
Go darker. I know he's questioning if you feel like he's going to say anything about whether he's going to...
I feel like he's going to go darker. I feel like he's going to go darker. I think Sam.
Jeremy's confusing.
He is confusing.
Yeah.
Those writers, man.
Yeah, they know how to talk. They write.
Yeah. They should write out what they're going to say beforehand and then just read it.
And they just give it to you.
Say this for me. I think he's going to go darker. I think we've seen Sam in the past exercise restraint. So I think now he has a bit of, you know, when he went into his brother's room at the beginning of the season, or after the end of last season, and there was Dean gone.
There it wasn't.
I don't have the, but this is, okay. I think something clicked, and he's like, you know what, I'll go do whatever. And we saw him turn a little dark and kind of reach a few, but then against Jeremy Carlos. Oh my, no question. Jensen?
How about right here in the gray shirt? Yeah.
So my question's actually for you, Jensen.
Great. I chose wisely.
I actually saw you in Austin at Noodles. You were doing a
Hey, over here.
Dance club?
And what made you want to do 10-Inch Hero? It's one of my favorite movies.
Have you guys seen it?
I saw it twice.
Oh, really?
That was one of those, it was so obvious that she thought everybody was going to continue yelling. I saw it! Everybody got really quiet. I was the only one yelling at them.
I had read that script like a year before we actually started filming it, and I just remember thinking this would be a really fun role to play because it's not something that I've done before, and it's something that I just liked. I liked reading it. I'm like, this would be really fun. I really enjoyed playing this character. So I told my agent to reach out to them and say that that's something I'd really be interested in. And the funding fell through, and they couldn't get it, and so it kind of went on the shelf for the better part of a year. And then it came back, and the director called a meeting with me and said, "Are you still interested in doing this?" And I said, "Yeah, absolutely." And I was the first actor attached to that cast, and then they started holding auditions, and I read with a few people for some of the other parts, just a kind of a chemistry test type thing, and yeah, and then they got the cast that you saw. I think they did a really good job. There was a few of the cast members I really gravitated towards.
Yes.
One in particular. Sean Patrick Flannery. I actually was, I kind of fanned out on Sean Patrick Flannery because of Boondock Saints and Suicide Kings. If you guys haven't seen that movie, that is a fantastic movie. Great Christopher Walken movie. So yeah, then obviously I fell in love with my wife while doing that movie. So that was a bonus.
You loser. You're dating somebody in the cast.
Yeah, who would marry a co-star?
What's wrong with you?
Don't hit me with the
We're like badly beatboxing.
go around and you do the tour thing. Well, since they're
So the thing when you do the thing, is this before the thing happened?
Did you say the corn thing?
Tour.
I'm assuming you mean a corn maze.
Get it? M-A-I-Z-E, corn maze.
Did somebody just say, why do we pay for this? Creation muted you. I'm kidding. Just you love watching a couple of idiots make asses of themselves. Okay, sorry. Question.
So now that you've there's so many episodes where they read the newspaper and then they're like, oh, that's a weird headline, we're gonna go check that out. Do you guys feel like that translates to your real life? Like, have you ever seen articles online or something like that and been like, oh, that's something spooky, I can go on that?
However, I will say that a couple nights ago, I stayed at the Driscoll Hotel in Austin. My wife. We took a vacation kind of thing. On my life, it's the first time since I really have known the show that I looked at Jen and I was like, I am 100% certain that this room is haunted.
Oh my
And
god.
it's fine. I mean it. I mean it. We walk in and a light started flickering. Bulb must be up. I'm going to change the bulb. So she rolled out of one of the other lights and put it in, turned on, and it was fine. And she's like, okay, I thought there was do you think this place is haunted? It started flickering. And I was like, guys, y'all watch my show. Don't mess with me.
Hey, ghost, you picked the wrong room, sucker.
I woke up at 3 a.m. to pee or whatever.
3 a.m.
You wake up when your sleep cycle changes. I woke up for whatever reason, and someone was pulling the sheet on one side back to the other, and Jen was not. It was not Jen.
Oh, hell
All my life.
It was me. I was also over there underneath the table with the plug and the lamp.
I think it was room 434 at the Driscoll. I'll check and see if I have the key thing. But, so that certainly to me, I was like, that's funny. And I turned the TV on the next day, what was on? Minute ending in Purgatory. And it was a hotel TV. You turn it on, or you could be on channel 100. You turn it off, turn it back on, it goes to the menu, and it's like, Mario Lopez. Have you seen this video? So, it's supernatural. And I was like, yeah, so you do know the show. This side. Who said this side? You.
This is my first submission, and y'all have made it fantastic so far, so thank you so much. My question is for Jared. I know you're interested.
Found him. You what?
I really, really love you.
Oh, I love you too.
More Jared a little bit.
I don't need you to say that again, because he heard you.
Yeah. But she likes me more. She hates that she loves me.
Anyway, your question happens to be for the guy you don't like. So what's your question?
That is a damn good question. What's going on with my dogs?
Yeah. What is going on with your dogs right now?
Kelly, her name is Kelly Brum, and she is our wardrobe trailer person, which means that she, if we're filming scene 1, and we're in our FBI suits, and she sets the suits in the trailer. If my pants rip on set, she goes and she's in charge of she does all the fittings.
Yes, there's a position required for Jared ripping his pants. Highly employable position. She's been with us since the beginning.
And she has a house with a yard, and the dogs prefer her company anyways to mine, but when we're out of town, they go over to her place. And then when I show up to work on Monday morning and they're in my trailer, they see me, they're like, oh. there, Sadie and Andy are like now.
Thank you.
Waving hand, I see the waving hand. Yes, you, yes, with the thumb. Yeah. You're talking to me right now. Yes, you start.
Alright, so I don't know how superstitious you guys are, but have you ever had to do anything on set that was like, I don't know, like talking in Latin or summoning demons or playing with the Ouija board? Because personally, when I think of like supernatural, like, you know, I'm like, I don't know if I would touch the Ouija board. With my luck, it moves. But I'm not trying to test the waters, you know, like.
It's weird. I've never considered myself superstitious, but there are certain things that I do, and I can only describe them as being superstitious. You know, like there's certain things that I will always walk onto a plane with my right foot first, and I don't know why I do it. It's just like it hasn't failed me yet.
I do the yellow light thing. Every plane, every
Yeah, the yellow light, you tap the roof. Like so there's certain things I know that I do that can only be described as being superstitious, but I don't consider myself a superstitious person. So when we do stuff like recite Latin that actually is an exorcism or something that they have done research on and found and gotten the actual text, and we're reciting that now verbally, I kind of think, you know, if it is real, then we're about to see some cool stuff.
Luckily, most of the time we're doing exorcisms, so not like conjuring.
Yeah, we're not conjuring people, we're trying to get rid of them. So
That'd be a little bit more strange, I suppose.
although we've done demon conjuring spells, you know, with the when we light the match and all of that stuff. Like that's stuff that they didn't just make all that up. Like that's stuff that they have researched and tried to get as authentic as they possibly can
It's
within
weird,
that
right?
realm,
But
within that world.
Yeah.
So I don't know. We haven't dealt with anything in 10 years that is truly unexplainable. Sure, their lights go out, but we have an entire crew of electricians that just go boom, boom, lights go back
We didn't have that at the Driscoll Hotel.
on. Right.
The weirdest thing that we do, and we do it on a regular basis, it's not even the Ouija board, we purposely spill salt all over the place on a regular basis. It's like, well, about to spill some salt, give me a second. And you
Yeah, we're just supposed to be bad luck.
We're supposed to be bad luck.
We break mirrors all the time.
That was weird, back in the breaking mirrors thing. Yeah. I never really thought about it in a superstitious way, because I usually just, I do it, right? I guess I think of it like Sam when I think of it, I suppose. But now in hindsight, now I'm going to be like wigged out.
How about right there in the gray blue? Yeah, you.
Okay, so my dad was watching the show, one of the episodes, and he's like, so what is this show supposed to be rated like in the genre-wise? He's like, it's supposed to be comedy or horror or fantasy?
What is this trying to be?
He had to rate the show one genre, would you rate it like horror, fantasy, comedy, drama?
Action.
Yes. That's
It's like
interesting. What would you, if you had to categorize the show, what category would you put it as?
I would say drama is the medium of
Awesome.
sci-fi.
Yeah. Sci-fi drama, horror drama. With
Perfection.
horror. Not horror drama.
Two syllables. It's difficult to describe the genre of your show as just the name of your show. I'm on a show. It's called Supernatural. What genre? Supernatural. What's it called? Supernatural.
What's your show called? Supernatural. What's it about? Supernatural.
It's a cop drama. Yes.
Somebody's already probably asked you this question before about when you were trying to do your theme, why did you do the original version in 2006 and finish it up with a bloody fish sandwich? Do you think it really shows its worth?
The word been saying again? The bloody fist
The
sandwich.
bloody fish sandwich at the end of Europe. You didn't do that.
I didn't cure it.
I know you didn't exactly hear it, but everybody seems to think in the show that you did.
Oh, no, no, he's not cured. It's that he got so close to being a human. And is that what you're saying? Crowley's character this year?
No.
Dean.
When you were trying to cure Dean of being a demon, the ritual was different. You didn't finish it up with like a sandwich.
Maybe that's why he didn't really get cured.
Yeah.
Spoiler alert.
I know. I see a standing.
Okay, so like,
Okay, speak up.
Me and my friend have like been wondering a lot about your pranks, cause like we hear a lot about your pranks, and so what's the best and the worst pranks you've ever pulled, and what's the best and worst pranks you've ever been pulled on? Does that make sense?
Hold on.
Yeah.
The thing with the pranks though is we're not like a George Clooney where we think of these elaborate pranks and you know it takes days or weeks to really pan out. That's way too much.
He has pranky face.
Except if it's Misha, then there's maybe a little bit more planning involved.
If you're ever missing your truck. Truck in a dumpster.
Truck in the dumpster?
He wants to put your trunk in a dumpster.
Yeah, but that'll never happen because Misha is deathly afraid of the two of us.
And with good reason.
But our pranks are just kind of spur of the moment goofs.
I like stealing people's phones and using their Twitter.
I would say the one that backfired the most on me was our A-camera operator, Brad Creaser. Big Brad Creaser fan? Sure. We love him to death. He is certainly family to us, but he is an amazing dancer. But we mess with him nonstop, constantly. And one time I had a piece of, I was getting a piece of gum out of, you know those, the you know the pieces of gum that you pop out of the foil?
Yeah.
Well, craft service cuts all those up into little individual things and puts them in a bowl and you just grab them. And so if you can imagine, there's very pointy, sharp edges on the cut up pieces of gum. So I popped it out of the little thing and did the gum. And I was standing there right next to the camera. And Brad turned around and I popped my trash into like, what, Eccles? Which is, I
can't not see anything. Like
I constantly mess with the camera because I've gotten to learn a little bit about cameras over the past 2 years, so I know locks and settings and gear speeds and all this stuff, and I can rearrange all that stuff while he's looking the other way.
Oh my god.
And then when he turns back to his camera to shoot the scene, he's like, what is that? So I love doing that to him. Well, I don't know why, I just threw it in his eyepiece. He did this.
Ouch.
That was a scary.
And we all were like, and I don't know, I didn't think, I thought that he would look and see it and just, be like, why are you putting your trash in my eyepiece? And he'd stop. And he just put his eye. Luckily, it missed, and it just kind of hit the top of his eye, but that one backfired on me. However, we laugh about it now all the time.
He does. He still cries, but we laugh. That could have backfired horrifically.
Yeah, that would have been really awful. So I'm glad that didn't.
What are you doing?
Dean's phone number. Who did David call our text? We read all the texts. We read them into
Oh, yeah, that was Dean's character's cell phone number.
It's now somebody else's number. They had to give it up. So now somebody in the world went to go buy a new phone in Canada and got that number. And it's like, what the hell are these people talking about?
All right, they're telling us to get off stage. They don't like us. We love you too. Guys, thanks for being here.